Welcome to the 13th annual Issues and Eggs Breakfast Forum fundraiser. My name is Betsy Boja, and I'm the current president of the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson. We're so glad that you're here in support. We could not continue defending democracy and empowering voters without our community rallying alongside our efforts to engage and educate voters. The League's mission of providing nonpartisan, reliable information to voters, encouraging informed, active participation in government, and thoughtful civic dialogue among community members has never been more important. We have served Tucson for the past 85 years and counting. Issues and Eggs is our annual fundraiser for this all volunteer-led organization and enables us to maintain the League's valuable local programs and services. Before we begin, we respectfully acknowledge that the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson is on the land and territories of Indigenous peoples. Yes. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson being home to the Tanatha Atam and Paskayaki people. I'm still trying to get that correct, and we'll continue to work on it. I would also like to take a moment to recognize any elected officials that are joining us today. If you could just stand up so we could acknowledge you and thank you for joining us. I know there are a few. A few general announcements. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors today. Your generous support means we are able to continue serving the Greater Tucson community. Thank you to the Community Foundation of Southern Arizona, the Local News Initiative of Southern Arizona, Tiffany and Posco, TEP, Cushman Wakefield PCOR, El Rio, the Pima Council on Aging, AAUW Tucson, Roediger Hoff PLC, Holualoa Companies, TABS. Thank you to all for being our sponsors. This morning we have a wonderful lineup of guests that will speak to this year's theme, Truth and Trust in Media, Navigating Today's News and Information. We'll have a panel discussion followed by the recognition of some fantastic local journalists. One note, if you have questions for the panel or moderator, please write it down on the index cards that are also on your tables. Our volunteers will pick them up and hand them to our sorters and moderators for the Q&A portion of our panel. And before I introduce and hand things over to our moderator, I'd like to take a moment to remind us all of our First Amendment rights as guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. While that seems to cover a lot that seems to be under attack right now, for our purposes today, we are focusing on freedom of the press. As I said, our topic is truth and trust in media. And we have the opportunity to hear from an esteemed panel of local journalists and academic experts on how they see the current state of journalism, what's changed about how news is delivered, the sustainability of local news, and how the consumer can discern what is true and what is not. We will also have an opportunity to honor 6 local award-winning female journalists, each impressive in her own right. I encourage you to read up on each of them in your program. You'll be amazed at the talent right here in our own backyard. But before introducing our wonderful moderator, I would like to remind us that while this is a day to be together in community, to celebrate, to connect, to learn, and to be inspired, I would be mistaken in not taking this opportunity to impress upon all of us what is at stake. A free press is integral to a free society. Studies have shown that when local press disappears, government corruption, propaganda, and grift increases. We lose accountability and transparency. We become less informed. Our democracy erodes, human rights go unprotected, and we are denied access to objective information. But someone far more qualified than I explained it hauntingly. Hannah Arendt was a German and American historian and philosopher who was considered one of the most influential political theorists of the 20th century. And this is from an interview she gave in 1974 at the age of 69, a year before she passed away. The moment we no longer have a free press, anything can happen. What makes it possible for a totalitarian or any other dictatorship to rule is that people are not informed. How can you have an opinion if you are not informed? If everybody always lies to you, the consequence is not that you believe the lies, but rather that nobody believes anything any longer. This is because lies, by their very nature, have to be changed, and a lying government has constantly to rewrite its own history. On the receiving end, you get not only one lie, a lie which you could go on for the rest of your days, but you get a great number of lies, depending on how the political wind blows. And a people that can no longer believe anything cannot make up its mind. It is deprived not only of its capacity to act, but also of its capacity to think and to judge. And with such a people, you can then do what you please. I encourage you to listen closely to our panel, to ask your questions, to visit the information tables, and to subscribe to local news. Not just our legacy media, but the new subscription newsletter style outlets that are blooming all over Arizona. And now, I want to introduce our moderator. Louise Carrion is an Emmy award-winning television producer, multimedia storyteller, and educator with a career spanning public broadcasting, Spanish language television, and independent filmmaking. Currently, as manager of multimedia production services at the University of Arizona's UCAT, he helps oversee 3 state-of-the-art multi-camera production studios. A recipient of 8 regional Emmy Awards, Louis' expertise in video storytelling is evident in his work with PBS, KUAZ-NPR, and Arizona Public Media. He holds a bachelor's degree in media arts with a focus on film, a minor in journalism, and a master's degree in Latin American studies. Whether producing award-winning documentaries, leading creative teams, or mentoring aspiring journalists, Louise is dedicated to inspiring and empowering the next generation of storytellers. So welcome, Louise.
Thank you, Betsy. That's a great introduction and something very important for us to be thinking about. Hannah Arendt, I think, had a premonition, and it's, I think, incumbent upon us to keep that in mind as we navigate today's current media landscape and political landscape. Good morning, everyone. As Betsy mentioned, my name is Luis Carrion. And I want to thank the League of Women Voters for bringing us together for this year's Issues and Egg Forum. It's just amazing to be in this room and to start to see so many people that I know from past projects, past relationships, and really, honestly, I feel like this is a congregation of very thoughtful members of our community and practitioners of storytelling and journalism in our community. So I'm very grateful to be here. Today's conversation, as Betsy mentioned, focuses on a topic that feels more important than ever: truth and trust in media. We truly live in a moment where information moves faster than ever before. It seems that anyone with a phone can publish content to a global audience. Artificial intelligence is beginning to shape how information is produced and distributed. And for better or for worse, this is a reality that we need to confront. Many people are asking an important question right now. Who can we trust? What can we trust? What sources can we truly trust? At the same time, journalism continues to play a vital role in democracy, investigative wrongdoing, informing the public, and helping communities understand the complex issues that we grapple with every day. Our panel today brings together representatives from local journalism, nonprofit newsrooms, academia, and media research to explore how the news ecosystem is changing, how journalists approach truth-finding in the environment, and how we can strengthen trust between media and the public. I'm going to begin with some brief introductions. I'm going to start in alphabetical order. Right here to the left is Chelsea Curtis, our first panelist. She's a reporter. Yes. She's a reporter with AZ Luminaria, a nonprofit newsroom focused on community-centered journalism in Southern Arizona. Her reporting has covered many issues, but they range from housing and public policy to investigative work on missing and murdered Indigenous people. We also have Diana Daly to her right. Dr. Diana Daly is an associate dean at the University of Arizona's College of Information Science. Her work focuses on information ecosystems, digital literacy, and societal impacts of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and social media. And Patty McCullough. Patty is an assistant professor of practice at the University of Arizona School of Journalism. Before entering academia, Patty spent many years as a reporter and editor, and today she focuses on teaching the next generation of journalists how to navigate issues like misinformation, fact-checking, and ethical reporting. And to her right is Tim Steller. Tim Steller is a longtime columnist for the Arizona Daily Star. Tim's work often examines local politics, public accountability, and civic life here in Arizona. I just want to start off just kind of getting the tone of the conversation right now and just ask everybody what they're thinking of, what's on their mind as we navigate this new media landscape. And Chelsea, I'll begin with you. What are some of the things that you're thinking about today?
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. And thank you so much for being here today. My name is Chelsea Curtis. I'm a reporter at Arizona Luminaria. And like Louise said, I cover mostly missing and murdered Indigenous people across the state. And it really isn't a topic that gets covered consistently by newsrooms, and rarely is it its own beat a lot of times. So in a lot of ways, it felt like I was building this coverage from the ground up. And because of that, I have had to spend a lot of time thinking about how to do this work in a way that people in communities, especially Indigenous communities, that historically haven't always been accurately portrayed or fairly portrayed in news, how to do it in a way that they trust. And it's not the kind of trust that media sometimes assumes it has, but the trust that you have to build slowly by listening, by showing up, doing the work, and by being accountable. I've been reporting in Arizona for about 10 years, and before joining Luminaria, a lot of my experience was in corporate newsrooms, most recently the Arizona Republic, which at the time at least was one of Gannett's largest newspapers. Those experiences gave me a deep appreciation for the importance of local news, and they also highlighted the pressures traditional newsrooms are under today. Staff and resources are getting smaller. There's this constant push to produce more content at a faster rate. And when you're covering communities that have been historically misrepresented, ignored, those things can really get in the way of building relationships and building trust. And when I moved into a nonprofit, it wasn't because I thought nonprofits were inherently better than corporate newsrooms, and honestly, I didn't know the differences until I got there. But what I did know is that the work that I wanted to do, slow, careful, contextual, community-centered reporting, really aligned with the kind of work Arizona Luminaria was also trying to do. And in fact, before Luminaria launched, our founders spent several months speaking with people in the community about what they felt was missing, what they felt was harmful, what they wished their local news was doing differently. And those conversations are what helped shape the newsroom that I came into. And it really resonated with me because as an Indigenous woman and a journalist who's been reporting in Arizona for a decade, I had also been hearing from families, from community, saying they wanted more consistent, thoughtful coverage of Indigenous communities, especially MMIP. And so my work was, and Luminaria's work is truly rooted in listening first and letting the community guide our coverage. And I think that comes a long way in building trust with people and people who have every right to feel hesitant about the media. And I understand why trust is low. Many communities have watched their local newsroom shrink or disappear altogether. And like I mentioned earlier, historically, coverage of communities, especially communities of color, haven't always been fair or accurate. And that history shapes how people see us today and whether they feel safe talking to us. But what we're trying to do at Luminaria is rebuild those relationships from the ground up, not by telling people to trust us, but by earning it. Story by story, conversation by conversation, by listening first, by reporting with people rather than just reporting about them, and making sure our work reflects the concerns and the lived experiences of the people we serve. And that's really at the heart of what I try to do in my work. And it's why I think, community-centered journalism plays a vital role in restoring trust in local news.
Thank you, Chelsea. That's great. I can really appreciate a lot of what you're sharing in that opening statement in terms of building trust and sharing genuinely from your perspective as a member of the community and building these relationships with traditionally disenfranchised members of the community. So thank you for that. Dr. Daly, your perspective is unique in this panel. I think you come from academia, but you also grapple and interface a lot with media and the evolving nature of the media landscape. And I'm wondering if you can just share with us, kind of as part of your opening statement, a little bit about how you see what is different, say now from 10 years ago in the media landscape that you study, that you research, that you inhabit in your research?
It's a good idea to turn off the mic in between people because heaven knows what could be said, right? Thank you very much, Luis, and thank you, Chelsea. I have been working for the university, focused on emerging technologies for about 10 years. So that is a really apt question. How have things changed? I'll first focus on what really seems to have stayed the same, or certainly connected and related with some base skills that are important for students and for people who are publicly engaged like you all. And that is to recognize the importance of understanding what people are saying and what algorithms are doing with what people are saying. So we accepted a long time ago in this tech landscape the idea that we could have black box algorithms that we really don't know how they're programmed or what they're intended to do. And that has continued, and that has informed what we see today with AI in this nation, and the kind of the decisions not to put down guardrails and to just have a free flow of technology and just see what it can do has been the philosophy behind technological development that starts in this nation. And what that means is profit does end up being what becomes the focus of these technologies. So even though they are used informationally, unlike, for example, a library or newspapers, more traditional places for information that we've used in the past, where people are seeking information and there are those who are helping to connect them to true information. The purpose of these emerging technologies has been and will continue to be, at least in this nation, engagement. And so engagement is a word that can mean that you are, oh, I found something true and I'm really excited about it. It can also mean, wow, I found something that reinforces what I want to believe, and I'm really even more excited about that. It can mean I'm super angry about this, right? And it can mean a million different things if you think about what engagement, really anything that catches your eye or interests you or keeps you online, because keeping you online is the goal of platforms because they make money on advertising to you and because they make money on selling your data and your profiles. So the more they know about you, which they get through collecting what, little pieces of what you do online, what you like, how long you look at things. That has been evolving over the last 10 years and beyond that. But definitely 2016 is when we saw, speaking of elections, 2016 is when we really saw pretty enormous impacts of what engagement-based media can do in elections. So I think that 10 years, if you fast forward to today, you can see that now artificial intelligence, which is itself based on algorithms, but it's also based on, data-wise, it's based on the internet that we've built up over that time, right? That large language models they basically seek out patterns from data sets, and these large language models like ChatGPT and Claude and Grok, their data set is the internet. And so if you think about everything that we've built up on the internet over time, all of the truths, all of the untruths, all of the whimsical ideas, and all of the, the less palatable stuff that I don't want to talk about over breakfast, all of that is part of these data sets. And that doesn't mean that it's representative of everyone, because you also have to think about who has felt safe expressing themselves on the internet, who has been able to dominate conversations on the internet and platforms. And when you think about that, you can recognize that what we have algorithmically built up over time in emerging technologies today that we use in media is something that the only thing that you can do really is focus on understanding how it works and the context involved in what you're looking at. I think when people, I'll say that I do some research with AI. I believe that AI and many emerging technologies can be used for good. And so one of the things I've done, for example, is worked with a collaborator to create pre-bunking media. I have a book called Decoding Deception that's free for anyone if you'd like to check it out. It's available online. And I also have created media like pre-bunking advertisements, audio skits, where we kind of we have a skeptic sort of talking a believer out of a false belief. And we put those out to people in research, and we discovered that people were bored with them. We didn't have the time or the budget to use visuals, so we used AI to create visuals, and suddenly what we were creating became much more engaging to people. That's an example of using AI for good. I think that emerging technologies, it's really important to understand while they are not neutral, there are human principles underlying them that are always what we should be paying attention to. So I think I'll leave it at that. I'm sure we'll have questions that bring out more of these topics, but it's really nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Daly. Thank you very much. So much to think about in that opening statement. Patty, I think you're also in a unique place at this kind of meeting point of us of a certain age and the younger generation that's aspiring to be journalists. In the courses that I teach, I'm always fascinated to examine and think about the sensibilities that young journalists are bringing to the table, specifically for me, for multimedia production. You know, their media consumption,
Yes.
what they're accustomed to consuming in terms of their media diet. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that as an educator that is interfacing with this younger generation of journalists.
Yes, sure. Hi, good morning. It's nice to be here this morning. As Louise said, I worked for 27 years. Don't want to give away my age here, but as a reporter locally. And now I am a full-time faculty member with the School of Journalism. Lucky to have the intersection of two things that I love passionately, young people and journalism. So I'm enjoying it thoroughly, and to your question, to start out here, certainly I learn a lot from my students. I'm kind of an old codger. I like newspapers and books, and I don't like reading things online, and I'll probably be that way for my whole life. But I learn a lot from them. I try to have an open mind about the way that they find out information, where they find news. And then I help guide them. And I would say that one of the most important things that I'm finding now is getting back to what's basic. Because without the foundations of literacy, which is one of the challenges that I find right now, is that they don't read. It's all quick bites, it's all quick news. I'll give you an example. I was helping teach students how to write the beginning and end of a long-form story. And I said, you want to get the reader of your story to care quickly so that they keep reading. And so to that end, I wrote the first sentence and the last sentence or paragraph of To Kill a Mockingbird up on a whiteboard. And both the beginning and the end have the names of the characters of To Kill a Mockingbird in there. And as I wrote them, I realized that they might not have any frame of reference. So I turned around and faced 20 young people, and I said, how many people in here know what this story is? One person raised their hand. So anyway, not to be too dramatic, but it took me a little bit to recover from that. I get a little incredulous sometimes. And I almost bought 20 copies of To Kill a Mockingbird as their parting present at the end of class. And I may yet do that. So, I find that getting them to care, to feel passion about other people, about what's going on in their community, about the vital role of the press with democracy, in regards to democracy and what's at stake and what we could lose. I don't want to scare them, but I also don't want to normalize what's happening. And so we have really great conversations. They're bright and ready to engage. I will say I'm hopeful. To Kill a Mockingbird aside. Just trying to get back to literacy, reading. I have them do reading comprehension quizzes in my advanced reporting class every other week. They have to read something dense and newsy, and then they need to answer questions, critical thinking, questions that help them to think critically about what they're reading. The other thing is news literacy. Is another big emphasis for me. And to that end, I'll just tell you another quick story. So at the beginning of class, we typically do an exercise called You're the Reporter. And I write it up on a whiteboard, and then I'll write a topic. So Minneapolis was a topic for a while, what was happening in Minneapolis. So that day I wrote Alex Preddy's name up on the board. And I said, you're the reporter, go. And so we get into some really great conversations doing that. And I said, well, first of all, what are you hearing? And one of the students in the class, Spark, a very bright young woman, she raised her hand and she said he was carrying a gun, like wielding a gun. And so I said, okay, well, where did you hear that? Where are you getting your news? And it was TikTok. So we go back and look at where that information is coming from, and I hope I'm impressing upon them that there are things that are just objectively true and things that are not true. And if you're getting your news from TikTok, you're probably going to think that Alex Preddy was wielding a gun when in fact he was carrying a cell phone. So I could go on, but I'll leave it at that and look forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Very enlightening. Tim, just this morning I saw something in the newspaper where you're covering a very important topic that we should be thinking about, for those of us that are waiting till the last minute. How are we going to vote on the Regional Transportation Authority issue? And the last piece I read about you were still seemingly undecided. You couldn't, even though you've been immersed in this topic. So with that in mind, I just want you to kind of share a little bit about your thoughts in terms of what you have seen by way of changes in the newspaper industry as a respected member of our current media landscape. What are you seeing happening right now?
Hey, thank you for the question, and thanks for having us here. It's great to see so many people and a lot of people I know. That triggered in me a question. So I still have my ballot at home. How many of you out there still have your RTA election ballot at home? Okay. Yeah, there's a few of us. This election actually has been a lot nicer to cover than almost all of them because it's one issue, and we've seen it coming for months. And always there are faults and lacks in the local news coverage of elections and other subjects. But from what I've seen, not just at our outlet, The Star, but at other outlets, there's been a lot of coverage of the RTA election, enough for you to be able to make up your mind, even if I haven't yet. So I assign myself the idea of kind of explaining how we got here. I know that most people in this room seem to be around my age or older. So as a result, that means we grew up in a completely different media landscape, and it's the one that was especially characterized by gatekeepers. Basically, there was a really high cost to become a news media outlet. You either had to have all the technology and equipment necessary to be a network or a local, the license to be a local TV station, or you had to have the printing press, the trucks for delivering newspapers. All that took a lot of money. But the thing is, you got the money back because by investing that money in all this equipment, you were one of the handful of gatekeepers of information that everyone consumed. And so we were able to, at newspapers, we had greater than 20% profit margins for years and years and years. That was expected. And, TV, the same. That's where everyone wanted to advertise, and that's how people got their information. So that also created a kind of American consensus. That is because there were so few outlets, the range of opinion and facts was restricted, and so fewer voices were. There was kind of this pro-freedom, anti-communist. You debate about how much tax is the right amount of tax, how many, which services, what school, but everything was. There was a consensus up for many decades after the World War II, and that had good impacts on social cohesion. We all kind of shared the same set of facts, but it was narrowing. And the one incident that came to mind this morning, not that I was alive for it, but 1964, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, one of the most important drivers of the Vietnam War. Allegedly, U.S. ships or a U.S. ship was attacked off North Vietnam. President Johnson interrupted the TV broadcast to say so. You know, the press dutifully reported it. Well, within years, many years, it became evident that the incident never happened. We all agreed that it happened for many years, and then it turned out it didn't happen at all. So that's the kind of thing that these days would not occur because there's way too many eyes, way too many ways of getting facts, questioning facts, etc. So what destroyed our kind of gatekept media was technology, the evolution of technology. This won't be a surprise to you. You know, as the internet took hold, you know, ad revenue went to search engines like Google, to social media like Facebook. That decimated or eroded the financial basis for newspapers like ours and other outlets. And so, and then separate to that, people kind of slowly, I think, stopped caring as much as they saw, social media evolve, and their eyes were increasingly drawn to this increasingly addictive technology. They turned away from local news or the typical outlets we were used to, and frankly, we weren't as needed. Elon Musk says all the time he hates legacy news media for reasons that I think are very self-interested, but he loves to tell his people on Twitter or X, "You are the media now." He wants to cut out the middleman. So as a result of these changes in technology, a lot of alternatives emerged, right? I mean, you see representatives here of obviously AZ Luminaria. I see people from the Tucson Sentinel here. You didn't have the barriers to entry of having to own a printing press or anything like that, so you could start a website. It's relatively cheap. And it's not just that. I mean, it wasn't just news outlets, though. That's the key, is that it's anyone. You know, some of you probably have podcasts out there, or your own little social media community of sorts. And in a way, that's a good thing. You know, people can talk directly to each other and share information. I just want to mention one thing. There's a word, the media, that just drives me insane. Because when people say it, they usually have a very narrow concept of what they're talking about. What they usually are talking about when they say the media is, traditional networks, newspapers, and that sort of thing. I mean, if I were you, I would excise that word from your vocabulary, unless you offer an adjective like, at worst, legacy news media or news media. But the media is just vaster than you can imagine right now. It's all kinds of people on all the social media, doing their own YouTube podcasts. We don't have the audience, newspapers and other earnest news outlets that these people have. They have much bigger audiences than we do. And that's good and that's bad. It's good to have diversity of voices. It's good, as I said, like a Gulf of Tonkin incident. I mean, just look at the debate over Iran. That sort of debate would have, I'm guessing, now I'm extrapolating a little bit, but the debate over that war would probably have been more restricted in the days of the very consolidated news media. But the problem is that people present themselves as journalists who sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. I mean, and sometimes that's in the same person. I know of a Facebooker here in Tucson who built a great audience over the last year or so. Initially, his Facebook page was all about initial appearances in Superior Court, or it was from jail. So he would watch the videos of the initial appearances every day, and then he would post about the interesting cases he saw. This is just a guy. And what he posted was really innovative and interesting. Like, oh my God, he's just watching every day, and he's finding all these crazy little cases and informing the public about them. It was incredible. And but that's evidently not what he wanted to do, because he started veering off into politics and something he knows very little about. You know, so people. What I'm getting at is people can be both good and bad at this inherently. I mean, the place where you have seen it really badly lately is in the case of the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Some of you may know her. You know, we have all these individuals showing up just making stuff up. You know, they word spreads on social media that so-and-so is a suspect, and then people start showing up at their houses. It's like, it's insane. And so that's the problem with not having gatekeepers, because most of the local media, most of the time, at least in this Nancy Guthrie case, has been pretty responsible, as I've seen it. There have been occasional glitches, but there's been a real divide between traditional media, and when I say traditional media, I'm including Luminaria and Spotlight and all those, and people who are just out there podcasting. So, you know, that leads to the question, who do we trust? I mean, you know, it's tough, but with all the AI stuff, people have got to train themselves on spotting this. I see it on social media all the time. There's these long stories about maybe a celebrity who did something good for somebody or endorsed a certain candidate's position or politician's position. And people love that stuff. They eat it up. It's completely bogus. It's completely made up. They take a picture of the celebrity. They just have AI write a story. Someone posts it, gets engagement, and I know how to spot it almost all the time. But you know, I can see why other people don't. And you know, it just takes a heck of a lot of practice. I mean, you know, if, for example, if you see an account that says like America First, I'm trying to think of like America's Best News Players or something like that. You got to question it, but a lot of people aren't. So it is important to like find and come back to sources, even individuals that have proven themselves credible, and question them until they do. You know. And I don't know. I don't have a secret to picking them out, other than that a lot of people lie, a lot of people make stuff up, because there is money in it, there's engagement in it, and so you have to kind of continually go back and fact check in your mind or check against other sources in order to find out whether something that you've seen is actually true.
Great. Thank you, Tim. You know, a few things that you mentioned really kind of sparked some curiosity in me. But what I heard you say at one point is we're experiencing kind of a fragmented news media landscape, and we have these, you mentioned legacy models or the gatekeeper. You know, gatekeeper to me sounds a little bit negative. It has negative connotations, but I think what I understand is that these are vetted, ethical, journalistic resources that the community can rely on. So it kind of leads me to another topic that I kind of wanted to focus on here, and it's the idea of, and this came from a survey that was shared with me. One of the core questions that we're looking at right now is what role should the media play when democratic institutions feel strained or when people worry about democratic backsliding? And this made me think of an incident recently related to Minneapolis, which is top of mind for a lot of people. There was a YouTuber, Nick Shirley, I believe his name is, and I was really fascinated by this because he made a 40-minute video exposing alleged fraud by the Somali community in Minneapolis. And I don't know if anybody here has taken the time to watch that video, it's 40 minutes. But it was fascinating in that it was modeled after the gotcha expose journalism of some legacy media that we're kind of familiar with, but it was conducted in a first-hand way with a selfie stick by a 21-year-old YouTuber. So he's basically shaping the narrative that the administration is leading him to disseminate. And from what I understand in doing my research, he was actually part of a cohort that was invited to the White House of social media influencers that were courted, groomed, and then just kind of let out to do their own thing and basically create these stories, which are passing as news. One of the things that after that one video became viral, I think I heard some people say that he deserves a Pulitzer Prize more so than all of the other winners.
J.D. Vance said that.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Okay, so I wasn't the only one that watched that. Yes. But it's just fascinating to me, too, that the New York Times, for instance, had been covering in depth that same topic with very lengthy research teams, feature writers, just a huge team of researchers conducting the reporting on that topic. But at last check, there's 4 million views of that one video, and that's what's shaping the narrative. So a lot of what I'm seeing with this evolving landscape is a jockeying for the control of the dominant narrative. And it's very much a weaponized arena, it's politicized, and it's combative. So to that end, I'm wondering if we could kind of just have a short conversation on the role of news organizations and news outlets in shaping and preserving democracy. And I'm opening this up to everybody. And I actually, Chelsea, I find it really fascinating that now these community-based journalistic entities and nonprofits are having to fill this void in this evolving landscape. So maybe you can speak to that and how you, as somebody that's worked in corporate media, now finds your voice within this new paradigm, if you will.
Yeah, thank you. That's a difficult question to answer, I think. But, from my perspective, I think it is, again, just rooted in boots on the ground, reporting, and talking with the community, and hearing what they say are the issues so that those narratives aren't getting confused or lost. Because I do think that in this landscape, it is easy for things to get politicized, messages to change. And so hearing directly from the community, being embedded in that community and truly trying to get to the core of their issues and focusing on that, sticking with that, reporting on that, I think goes a long way in building trust. It goes a long way in truth, telling the truth.
Yeah, excellent. Also maybe just a quick follow-up, I think Tim also alluded to the business model shifting. I think Dr. Daly also. So I'm wondering if you have anything to say about the fact that news organizations now are having to rely on nonprofits, on almost kind of donations or philanthropic support, if you will, almost, to conduct the work that historically has been supported by, capitalism, right? Just the structures that were in place, the advertising, but that is all disrupted now. So what does it mean for us as a society to have to seek out this information through these nonprofit agencies? I wonder if you and your organization think about those sorts of things.
For sure, yeah. And that was something that was new to me coming into the nonprofit world, was having to think about funding as a reporter. And it's something, that was just different to navigate, because in corporate world we weren't involved in any of that. Rarely did we know numbers and to that degree, and so it's been new to navigate, and it definitely is interesting. But I will say that in corporate structure, a lot of times they are dictated by metrics, by page views, by subscriptions. And that really is driving this sort of fast-paced environment, having to appease that, I guess, to keep that flowing. And in nonprofit, we are funded by our readers and by grants. So it really does get down to the community level, which makes connecting with those communities even more important, because they're the ones that are investing in this news. And it also allows us the opportunity to slow down more, to spend time on being more accurate, spend time on providing more in-depth contextual coverage, and really focusing and zeroing in on the needs of the community, as opposed to being reactive and jumping on every breaking news story because everyone else wants that, and that's bringing in clicks.
Excellent, thank you. Patty, did you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, I just had one thought, and I certainly in total agreement with what Chelsea is sharing, and I would love to see a more robust nonprofit news model that they don't have to be continuously putting their budget together and praying that it's going to make it. And so going forward, the nonprofit news model is probably going to be hopefully what will help us move into a future with democracy. And again, to a sidebar to that is, I think that what we've lost is also coverage of local government and coverage of our courts, and intensive coverage, which doesn't mean that when something happens that's big news, you go down and cover it, but that you have journalists who know how to examine the city budget and glean from it what is important for the community to know. There are news organizations that are doing that. I mean, Dylan Smith is here with the Tucson Sentinel. I know that he's kind of more old school and kind of boots on the ground down at the courthouse, but you only have so many reporters working for you, and you can't send them everywhere. So the model I would like to see would be what Chelsea is describing, and having a lot of staff doing that kind of coverage, but also having the old traditional model of somebody who is covering the Tucson City Council. And that's what they do, and that's all they do.
Yes, thank you. No, that's very good. Dr. Daly, I just wanted to follow up, since we heard from Patty, since you have the opportunity to kind of have your finger on the pulse of the young student, in terms of, the older, let's just call them legacy news outlets, really were focused on accountability, watchdog journalism, I'm going to call it, just kind of monitoring the courts, the judiciary, the civic responsibility of journalists, right? And when you kind of interface with students, what is their take on the importance of that? Or are they thinking about it at all? Are they not thinking about, where are they going to find that fountain of information? Do you have any sort of conversations or sense as to how that is taking shape with the younger generations?
That's a good question. I will say first that there is really a spectrum of how young people are responding to today's news and information environments. I think that there is an awareness that sourcing is important for some of them more than others. And this gets into the kind of unevenness of our educational landscape and literacy landscape. So when we think of the term literacy, I think it's one that's not taken very seriously sometimes. It's a little bit of a feminized labor. It's something where, it's teaching, it's not that important, but it's actually really the bedrock of democracy. And that doesn't just mean literacy related to understanding of what it means, for example, literacy related to budgets. Thank you for that. It means literacy related to understanding the civic processes that are involved in voting in elections. And it can also mean literacy related to emerging technologies. So AI literacy, I think, is very important right now, and I'll make sure I come back to that. Algorithmic literacy, I think you all are here to learn some of that, and I'm doing my best to share it in a short period of time. But imagine for the student who has a course in this, or has a few courses in this, even in elementary school, even in middle school or high school, rather than just in college. That student is going to show up with a very different set of understandings and expectations around their media consumption than a student who has not. We have a lot of economic inequality related to schooling and school systems in this nation. And so how are young people responding is really going to be a spectrum because of that. I also want to go back to the, we've been talking about this term gatekeeping, and much respect to all of my co-panelists and moderator, but I want to make sure that the term gatekeeping is not seen as something that only happened with legacy media and doesn't happen now. Gatekeeping is what algorithms do best. If you've heard of something called the filter bubble, have you heard of a filter bubble or echo chambers? You're familiar with what those are? That is the sense that when you are watching something online or going through posts or however people are served media online, if you're paying attention to this, they might give you something similar. You are much less likely to be served something that you might not be as interested in or might not agree with as much. And so that filter bubble that you end up in of ideas that kind of, or echo chamber, where there are ideas, and people who are echoing you, agreeing with you, can make something feel so true, whether or not it's actually true. And that is a form of very powerful gatekeeping, and we all have our own gates, right? And they're not just gates between us and the outside world, they're gates between us and our friends, gates sometimes between us and our families, right? So I think that young people have grown up in this environment, and I would say if I have to give an overarching kind of quality to how young people engage with information online that I'm aware of, it's that they're terrified and careful because they recognize they've lived through relationship disruptions, and they've lived through lots of moments where people in their lives are in completely different worlds. And I think that they actually can be sometimes more alert to that than older generations, and I respect them for that.
Yes, thank you. No, thank you very much for that. I think it's important to recognize that these are difficult times for young people to be navigating. As a parent of two young women, I can attest to just I just sometimes really am concerned for media consumption and just all of the forces that are coming at our young people. So it's important for us to keep in mind. I also want to remind people this is an opportunity for you to just write your questions. We're going to be continuing the conversation here, but we're going to shift into Q&A mode, and we want to include as many questions of yours as possible. So take a moment to just fill out those cards, and they'll get sent up here to the front. Tim, if you could follow up with that, in this moment, there's just so much criticism of media, as somebody that is a member of the journalism community here locally, sometimes I have to gauge how I want to present myself to people, depending on if I'm in mixed company, because I just know that it can be a very heated topic for a lot of people. And I'm wondering if you could just fill us in terms of your approach and how you see people reacting to the news media and these maybe criticisms, and critics will argue that the media has failed to meet the moment. And what does accountability journalism look like, if that's even a thing anymore?
Whew, that's a lot of big topics. First, I want to thank Diana for that truth bomb. That's talking about algorithms as gatekeeping is really, it's not something I've heard described that way, and I really, really appreciate that. the filter bubble is real, of course, too. So for me, as I said, I bristle at complaints about the media. You'll often hear or see posts or hear people say, "Why isn't the media covering this?" And then they'll post whatever it is that they're interested in, or talk about whatever it is that is their pet peeve. And then if you do a simple Google search, you'll find page after page of stories about that. So the media is covering it. That's the very common experience. But it's just a kind of a reflex. People are mad about different things, and yes, there are reasons to be angry at news media outlets for different behaviors or actions through the years, but I think it's almost a reflexive, instinctive kicking out at one of the institutions that's maybe failed us, or at least made us feel like our country is failing in some ways. I don't take it personally. In fact, I find that the personal interaction is what has built trust for me over the years. I mean, I got here in 1997. I applied for my first job out of here in 1997. I never expected to stay here. And, it's 29 years later. I'm not only still here, I'm working for the same outlet. It's almost crazy. But it has incredible benefits, which is, as I said, looking out and seeing a lot of people I know. Some people don't like me, and that's fine. But I think if you're getting out and talking to people, if you're talking to people on the phone, meeting people, that breaks down barriers. I'm known as a left-leaning columnist, and I am, although not 100%. But I know I have lots of Republican friends and contacts who know me and know me as someone who has treated them fairly, and that's really what it takes. You start from the beginning when you start in a new city like Tucson, and then you just build from there. So that's how I deal with that. I mean, just being out there for years and years and years has helped me deflect that kind of criticism. I forgot the second thing you said, something about accountability.
Yes, I just was wondering, the media has failed to meet this moment, but what does accountability journalism look like, if that's even a thing? Is that something that we can still strive for?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think...
or is it all attack?
No. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing you'll find in the local news outlet landscape here in Tucson is that it's very earnest. I almost laugh at how earnest it is because we got like 5 outlets all covering the similar, overlapping groups of issues and doing it very earnestly. Sometimes I think there should be more fun or I don't know, just more freedom in what we do. And so, I think there's no reason there. The only thing that I think would stop accountability is if people get too wedded to the powers that be. You have to always be checking your relationships, checking your biases, and making sure that you're representing your readers, not your sources. That is, you may be talking to your sources all the time, but you have to be doing it on behalf of your readers, or else you're just playing power games.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Some of the questions that are being filtered to me they're diverse, but one of the things that people want to know is how can they help the media in general? What can the public do to support media? And that kind of goes along with another question that I'm seeing is, people are struggling when they want to support reputable news sources because they are behind paywalls, right? And that's a fact of life, and that's why we have nonprofits now coming to light. So that's why it's evolving. There are these new forces at play in how media gets disseminated or news gets disseminated. But one simple fact is that social media is free and accessible, and its currency is attention. It caters to attention. And Dr. Daly, you've talked a lot about this and done research and just the allure of social media platforms, of algorithms. You know, I grew up in an era where we talked a lot about media literacy and how important it was for young people to develop a media literacy. But now you're talking about AI literacy, algorithmic literacy, and these things that we don't fully understand and are kind of just reshaping our entire lives. So maybe you can shed a little bit more light on that.
Yeah, turn it back.
No, that's okay. So, yeah, I mean, the way I do want to go back after a moment because I think Chelsea had some things to say, and I want to make sure she gets to speak to some of the points that were in that question. There were a lot of points in that question.
Yeah.
But the first thing I guess I'll say is that AI literacy is pretty important right now. And to me, what that means is just understanding around what these technologies do and can do when they're being used. You know, in this nation, we are not likely to put up guardrails around AI. That is not the case in some other places. In Europe, there is an AI Act that is coming out right now, and there are some guardrails around AI. For example, facial recognition, which has a lot of problems, has a lot more limitations in how it can be used. And now we do that state by state or place by place here. To an extent, in Boston, there was some lobbying to successfully say facial recognition algorithms should not be used because they have real disparate impacts on people because they don't read all faces the same. But you know, literacy and understanding those problems was a real advocacy effort, and then that was followed up with people showing up at city council meetings and giving testimonies and making things happen. So I think the public being engaged and giving these testimonies in recognizing, oh wow, this is how any type of media is being used, you know, whether it's AI or something else, and these are some of the things that, you know, we've found. These are some of those disparate impacts, for example. I think speaking up about those and making sure is a great way. That's one kind of form of really active media literacy. The way I think of AI literacy and any kind of technological literacy is that it really should be valued more highly. I think about, for example, literacy around vehicles. You know, how many people do you need to understand how to build a car versus how many people need to understand how to drive a car? When you think about literacy in those terms, you recognize that actually we need way more of the people who are teaching how to drive this. And driving it means using it, right? And it means interacting with it with awareness and making sure you're not hurting other people, making sure you're not invading people's privacy by putting their private information into an AI chatbot and things like that. So I think it also comes down to, you know, I'm so appreciative of our teachers, and I think that recognizing education as the place where that happens, and in addition to recognizing these, you know, crucial media outlets, those are some of the ways that the public in general can help, supporting through funding and just recognizing that these literacies are super essential and doing whatever you can to make sure that they have the funds to continue. But I also now want to defer to Chelsea here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Daly.
Thank you. Yes, sorry about that. My ears perked up when he mentioned, Luis mentioned paywalls.
Yes.
Just would love to share that Luminaria does not do paywalls. All of our work,
Yeah.
all of our work is free, accessible, and also anyone can republish our work. And so I think that's like a really great thing about Luminaria and something that was really important to me going into covering MMIP. I just last year, launched a database, a first of its kind database of missing and murdered Indigenous people in the state. And it was really important for me for that to be accessible and those stories to be accessible especially for Indigenous communities who wanted this work done, but also that they could access that work. And I wanted to touch on the question of how to support news, how you all could potentially support news. We do take small donations, but I do know that's not always possible for everybody. But our readers are our funders. And if you're not, of course, able to do that, it really does go a long way to share our work, to interact with our work online, spread the word, spread these stories about missing and murdered Indigenous people. These are stories they want told. They want people to know about their loved ones. And come talk to us. Reach out, tell us what you're hearing in your communities, what you would like to see covered. We won't quote everything you tell us from the jump. We're usually very personable, likable people. So would love to chat with you guys.
Great. Thank you so much.
Can I jump in on that,
Chelsea?
please?
Yes, please.
I just want to explain one thing that I see, which is that nonprofit, sometimes people confuse like nonprofit and new media. The fact that you're a nonprofit, there are legacy media who have become nonprofit, and there are new media, like I'm thinking right now, the Arizona Agenda and Tucson Agenda, that are for-profit. And I don't think that one is more righteous than the other. I don't think one is better than the other. And in fact, Chelsea said our readers are our funders. That's true of for-profit media as well. Our readers are our funders. We are funded by subscriptions. We do have a paywall. I don't like it. I got so much more readership when there wasn't a paywall on my work. But it's reality, and there's ways around it, and it's not that expensive, so I just live with it. But yeah, I mean, I think that overall, I think the key here is that's true of most media now. The readers or the consumers are the funders, and you'll see that with these podcasters as well as news outlets like ours.
Great, excellent, thank you. We're getting a lot of questions, so I'm hoping to just kind of throw these out there, and if we can respond to them quickly, that would be fantastic. I've had several about the Fairness Doctrine, and do you believe the repeal of the Fairness Doctrine was the beginning of misinformation and backsliding, and the Telecommunications Act of 1996, and the Communications Decency Act? So for those that teach journalism, that are actively involved in the newsroom, if you have anything to say about that?
I don't.
Okay.
No, I'm just teasing. My brain, it just went kind of haywire thinking, I've got to add that to my curriculum.
Yeah. This is a smart crowd, an informed crowd that we're dealing with here. I think clearly what's happening now is that there isn't this need to be fair in reporting, and it's up to the consumer to discern what is biased. I've had several questions on bias, so maybe we can follow up with how do you, as a journalist, identify your own bias, and how do we teach young journalists to, grapple with their own biases as they become journalists?
Okay, I can speak to that. I was just trying to go back and remember my history. So certainly that is a big area of concentration in my advanced reporting class. Those are juniors and seniors and some graduate students. I mean, we all have inherent biases and ways of experiencing the world, certainly. So as up-and-coming journalists, we spend a lot of time looking at how what you think about the world around you, what's shaped you to be the person that you are, and what it means to relate to and see other people, and other people who have different life experiences than you do, and how that frames who they are. And then as a journalist, we emphasize a lot on what we call backgrounding. So when you are getting your sources for a story, you're putting your puzzle together, you have the characters, so to speak, who are going to be in your story, and you need to know a lot about them. So before you put your story out there, you need to know, for example, whether or not they have a criminal background. You need to know things about their lives so that if you present them in a certain way, you don't get a phone call from somebody who says, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you presented that person like that when they did this. I don't know if that speaks to what you're saying exactly,
Yeah.
but you need to try to, I try to tell them, help them see that they need to open up their minds about what's going on in a story that they're reporting, who the people are, who the characters are, and to also add to, if you're including certain people in your story, who are you leaving out of your story? And so trying to take a broad look at how you're vetting your sources and how your own biases might limit your ability to see what a story should include.
Excellent. Thank you. Chelsea?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as a journalist, it's really important to be transparent about your biases or even perceived biases. I'm Indigenous. I grew up on the Navajo Nation. A lot of the issues Navajo people face is what I've experienced personally, and that could be perceived as a bias by some people for me covering those same issues. And I think being transparent about that is important, but I also think that it is a tool that can be used, because a lot of people couldn't tell that story in the same way that I do, because they've never lived it. And so really it can be used as a tool to better inform the public, to better tell the truth about what is going on in communities.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much. And something that kind of maybe piggybacks on this idea of bias, somebody asked a very specific question, but I think it gets a little bit at this topic that we're sharing about right now. Why does the media rarely write positive stories about the South Side, but focuses on negative stories that put the South Side in a bad light?
Ooh, I can take this one.
Okay.
The media focuses on negative stories everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, I know I've heard that down through the years about the South Side, and so if you think of it this way, where we tend to cover the negative, we tend to cover crime, and where that happens, we are giving negative news. I mean, right now, for the last month. News outlets have been gathered in the foothills, giving the foothills a bad name because Nancy Guthrie disappeared from there. I would say I don't want to completely dismiss the questioner's concern, but that is really an important part of this, that we have a focus on negative occurrences in general. The other day I had and I'm not the only one who covered this. I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but wrote a column about a guy, you might have seen about him on TV or in my column, orange vendor who got a bunch of, who got a counterfeit $100 bill. He sells oranges at 36th and Park. And through social media, which actually did a really great job in this case, people started showing up at his orange stand in vast numbers just because a guy from Telemundo and I wrote about, and social media first talked about this guy having been victimized at 36th and Park. So I guess that's a negative story in that he was victimized by somebody passing a counterfeit bill, but it was a positive story in that everybody showed up and took care of him.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, this one's interesting. Please speak to the effect of shadow banning by major online players on our shared narratives. Is that something that Dr. Daly, you might have something to say about? For some of us, that maybe shadow banning is a new term.
Yeah, I mean, shadow banning, well, I'm just going to say I believe that we're talking about not acknowledging that someone's, black box algorithms, as I brought up before, basically hiding someone's content without, really taking accountability for hiding that content. I believe, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
So, I think in general, since we were talking about the, sections, and laws related to media, we can talk a little bit about 230 here related to the online environment. 230 allows, it's been used to apply, it was originally made for more traditional and legacy publications. But it allows media companies, including social media companies, to not be accountable for what happens on their sites as much, including misinformation and disinformation. And, it sort of lowers interest in content moderation because of that. Shadow banning is kind of the other side of that, of hiding things on purpose, which is just a way of shaping some of these narratives that we're talking about and gaining power or, kind of lowering controversy. I think, a common theme of what we've been talking about recently is how public attention can change what the narrative looks like as well, like the orange vendor, for example. So shaping narratives is very important, and when companies want to do that with, without like being seen to have their sort of foot on the pedal, that's what they do. That's been found in a lot of different companies. For a lot of different reasons. In general, I don't know that you'd always call it shadow banning in these cases, but TikTok, a content moderation document among TikTok employees was leaked to the press, and it showed that they were suppressing the content of people whom they judged to be easy to bully or overweight or trans or queer. There is a lot of that probably happens, but we don't know about it, and people just have to try to find other outlets to express themselves. I'm not really sure what to say about it other than that it's just part of this larger shaping of narratives and more evidence. I think we all need to be reminded periodically that, online content and social media is not a mirror. When we're looking at, what our world is like, and now everything's online though, but not everything is online, right? It's going to be discriminated against in terms of how it's represented for a variety of algorithmic and other reasons.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Well, I've been told that we need to keep things moving along, but I want to share a quote that came up. It's not really a question, but somebody included a quote. The least protected border is the one between democracy and authoritarianism. And what we would do, by the way of journalism, to protect that border. So it's an interesting thought. I was going to throw it out there, but I think we would go way over time. So I just want to thank all the panelists, Chelsea, Dr. Daly, Patty, and Tim. Thank you for sharing your perspectives, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for bringing together this important conversation. Thank you. I think it's clear that in this age of rapid technological change and an overwhelming flow of information, thoughtful discussions like this help us better understand how journalism works and why trustworthy information remains essential to a healthy democracy. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Louise, for a wonderful job.
Thank you.
And thank you so much to our panelists. I really appreciate your time and thoughtfulness this morning. I wish we could have gotten to more questions. I know this is a very thoughtful audience as well, as I wrestle with the mic. And I don't know if you can sit. I don't know if you have to leave, but you are welcome to stay as we recognize some wonderful women journalists in the room. So One of the wonderful things about being part of an organization focused on women is being able to celebrate those who are making a difference each and every day in their own way. And today we are honoring 6 amazing women who have impacted the local media scene. So when I call your name, please join me up on the stage. I'm going to say some wonderful things about you, and then you will have a moment as well. I would like to first have 3 people come up: Irene McKisson, Diana Nanez, and Becky Pollock, all co-founders of AZ Luminaria. So Diana Nanez is a co-founder and executive editor at Arizona Luminaria, an award-winning bilingual nonprofit newsroom for people seeking in-depth local journalism that lights the path so they can take action. She's the daughter of Mexican immigrants, an entrepreneur, investigative journalist, and narrative writer whose story of indigenous and borderlands communities was part of an 2018 Pulitzer Prize in explanatory journalism. Prior to launching the newsroom that puts people before profit, Nanez worked 15 years at the Arizona Republic. Outside of journalism, this is my favorite part, she's I might mispronounce it, Mexican metiche mom, sci-fi crime thriller nerd, and professional chismosa. I also want to recognize Irene Fischler McKisson is co-founder and principal executive at Arizona Luminaria. She previously spent 18 years at the Arizona Daily Star, where she led audience development and co-founded This Is Tucson. McKisson taught editing at the U of A School of Journalism for 8 years and teaches social media at the College of Information Science. A lifelong Tucsonan, she's now raising 2 second-generation Tucsonans in a 102-year-old haunted house. And finally, I'd like to recognize Becky Pollock is a longtime local journalist, and she has covered just about any topic you can think of. She's a co-founder of Arizona Luminaria and an adjunct professor at the University of Arizona. She's a 3-time winner of the Arizona Newspaper Association's Freedom of Information Award. She and Irene are among the winners of the 2019 Google News Initiative Innovation Challenge. She has volunteered with Arizona Press Club, local startup communities, Girl Scouts, and Saguaro National Park. She grew up in Yuma and lives in Tucson. So.
I just want to thank everybody today for being here. Shared values, shared mission, shared principles for ethics and equity at a time that we need more than ever. Southern Arizona, the borderlands, and the border has moved across our nation in ways that we anticipated but never expected to see in the way that it's affected our communities everywhere. And I think we are the root of that here. We know that, we've lived that. And so I just want to appreciate you, and I want you to take a moment to really value the need for joy and truth, and don't let go, because without each other we will not be able to do any of this thing. People use the word democracy so much, and I think in the everyday lives, that's not what we're looking at. It's life and death, and it's information, and it's finding the ways to your joyful path in your joyful communities, and I appreciate you all for doing this and supporting them.
Yay. Okay, thank you. Okay, let me get my notes in order. Next, I would like to recognize Nancy Sharkey, U of A School of Journalism. Oh. Nancy is an award-winning journalist, editor, and educator whose career spans more than 4 decades. She is a professor emerita at the University of Arizona, where she taught journalism from 2010 to 2021 and served as associate director and director of undergraduate studies in the School of Journalism. Before joining the University of Arizona, Sharkey spent 25 years at the New York Times, holding a range of newsroom leadership roles, including senior editor for recruiting and training, education editor, deputy travel editor, and assistant metro editor. In these roles, she helped shape newsroom standards, coverage, and talent development. Sharkey also taught journalism at the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism and the New York University, bringing professional newsroom rigor into the classroom for nearly 3 decades. Since retiring, Sharkey has remained engaged in civic and journalistic life by sharing the local news initiative at the Community Foundation of Southern Arizona. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Well, thank you very much. This is an incredible gathering, and one of the things we're trying to do with the Local News Initiative is to build support for local media. And I want to thank the panel for a stimulating discussion about pros, cons, ups and downs. And I have to say, Patty, when you told the story about the Truman Capote book, it reminded me that when I sent a feature writing class to the Air and Space Museum, they loved talking to the docents. And one girl came back and said, "Oh my God, I just interviewed a veteran of World War XI." So the message is we need to meet our students where they are. I want to thank Betsy and the League for hosting this gathering, for this honor, but I have to say that I've got to share it with the hard-working folks on our advisory board for the Local News Initiative, beginning with Dino DiConcini, who shepherded this from idea to actual reality, Beth Murphy, Donald Pitt, Nina Trasoff, and Stephen Golden. And critically, none of our work in building support for local news in Southern Arizona would be possible without the support of the Community Foundation of Southern Arizona, led by the incomparable Jenny Flynn. Thanks to you all. So throughout my career as a journalist, I've believed in this simple, sturdy idea that our panel discussed: seek truth and report it. Seek truth and report it. Not opinion, not outrage, not speculation. That's the first principle. I spent 25 years, as you heard, as an editor at the Times and taught journalism. And in newsrooms and classrooms, this was the foundation. Seek truth and report it. Today, as we've heard, that foundation is under strain. Social media posts that spread misinformation, disinformation, and monetize our feelings, our emotions, have supplanted the primary mission of journalism. And that means, as we, as consumers, approach social media, we're basically choosing dessert over the protein for every meal. And the results are visible as tech bros have monetized our emotions, our engagement. Local newsrooms have starved. The financial model has shifted to the tech business. Communities, as we've heard, are losing their watchdogs. We don't have full-time people covering courthouses, city council, school boards, town councils around our region. And so the platforms that reward speed and anger and exaggeration and excess have supplanted truth, fact-based reporting. So these consequences are serious. We've talked about this. When communities lose their watchdogs, democratic decision-making becomes harder. We no longer share the same set of facts. Civic participation falls, public spending rises, and man, is it a great time to be a corrupt public official or what? So that's the lament. You've heard the lament, but that's not the end of the story. Something surprising happened just last week. The publisher at my old newspaper, A.G. Sulzberger, recorded his first ever advertisement. It's broadcast on podcasts at the Times has, and it's not urging people to subscribe to the Times, but to encourage them to support any news organization dedicated to original fact-based reporting. So think about that for a moment. The publisher of the most successful digital news operation in the world, using his platform to say, don't just support us, support real reporting where you find it. Support newsrooms that send human beings, not algorithms, to sit in meetings, verify information, ask questions. He recognized that as legacy newsrooms are shrinking, something else is rising. And here in Southern Arizona, we're part of that story. Our local news initiative has helped build community support for new nonprofit, community-centered sites. Some of the founders, as you've heard of these organizations, are being honored today. Chelsea, Irene, Diana, Becky, and Caitlin Schmidt of Tucson Spotlight. Now, these startups don't have printing presses or expensive broadcast licenses or advertising empires. But what they have is trust, transparency, and community support. They listen. So the initiative has helped them add reporters to their staffs, and we're about to embark on a third round of fundraising for our next grant round. We want to expand the pool of awareness of donors and support for these local news organizations. You see, the need is still enormous. Since I moved full-time to Arizona about 15 years ago, the newsroom at the Star has lost dozens of reporters and editors, great people, through corporate financial cuts. Our grants have helped add maybe 6 reporters on the ground in Southern Arizona, but it's far short of the 40-plus reporters and editors that we've lost in Southern Arizona. So many important beats remain or undercovered. The local news initiative has also supported innovative ideas like training citizen journalists on the ground in Patagonia to cover border issues. We're exploring public policy initiatives at the state level to support local news. Maybe tax credits for subscriptions, maybe advertising tax credits, perhaps tax incentives for news organizations that add staff. Already about 20 states have some sort of public support for local news as they recognize that the decline of local news, of boots on the ground, has impaired, threatened democracy. And this is a bipartisan issue. There is bipartisan support. Oklahoma, New Jersey, 2 very different states, both have public policy initiatives. And we're going to be encouraging the new digital startups to help scale up, as they talked about, to become more sustainable. So yes, there's a lot of work to be done, but there's also real momentum, because when communities invest in local journalism, they invest in themselves, in better governance, in better civic ties, and in a healthier democracy. So today, my ask is simple, and it's the same one A.G. Sulzberger made. If you care about facts, support the fact gatherers. If you care about community, support the reporters who ask the hard questions. Subscribe to Arizona Luminaria, to Tucson Sentinel, to Tucson Spotlight, to Somos Tucson, to the Tucson and Arizona Agendas, and to the Arizona Daily Star. Donate to our local news initiative. Look, shared truth is not inevitable. It's built story by story, meeting by meeting, newsroom by newsroom. And it survives only when communities decide that it matters. Today, I hope you'll make that decision. Support the people who show up. Support the people who ask questions. Support the people who seek truth and report it. Thank you.
We also have to recognize a couple people that couldn't be with us today. Caitlin Schmidt, founder of the Tucson Spotlight. She is the co-founder, editor, and publisher of the Tucson Spotlight, a bilingual nonprofit newsroom dedicated to covering underreported issues and communities in southern Arizona. Since launching in 2024, Tucson Spotlight has published hundreds of original stories in both English and Spanish, while providing paid mentored opportunities for more than 40 early career reporters, photographers, and broadcast and multimedia students. Schmidt has more than 15 years of reporting experience, including nearly a decade at the Arizona Daily Star, where she covered public safety, courts, local government, health, and solutions-focused journalism. So she could not be here with us today, but we will give her her award. All right. And thank you. We'll let her know your appreciation. And finally, many of you might be familiar with Lupita Murillo, who could not join us, but she is from KVOA TV retired, an intrepid reporter, investigative journalist. So Lupita grew up along the U.S.-Mexico border. She's a proud Tejana from South Texas and was the first Hispanic female anchor reporter in the Rio Grande Valley. She came to Tucson in 1978 and made the Old Pueblo her home for the last 47 years. For 46 of those, she worked at KVOA News 4. From crawling through drug tunnels to spending 24 hours behind bars in Arizona's worst jail, her efforts paid off. She's gone into Mexico to cover elections and was the first North American reporter to go to Los Pinos, equivalent to the White House, during Vicente Fox's inauguration. When she wasn't working on undercover assignments or chasing after criminals, Lupita could be found volunteering in the community and believed that was as much as a part of her job. She has won numerous awards, the Edward R. Murrow Awards, also Associated Press Awards, and has been nominated for an Emmy. She's been honored by the U of A Hispanic alumni, and for 5 years in a row, she was voted Best Reporter in Tucson Lifestyle magazine. She has been inducted into the Arizona Media Association Hall of Fame and was also awarded the first Community Beacon Award by the Asian American Pacific Islander Organization. And before Congressman Raul Grijalva passed away, he entered Lupita Murillo's name into, where's the next page? Into the congressional record for her years of service to the community and her 50 years as a broadcast journalist. Lupita, I'm so sorry she isn't here. She's known for her high heels and has chased after many a bad guy wearing her blingy shoes, and she hung her heels up officially in 2024. So congratulations to Lupita. Okay. And I just want to say that there are obviously many other women in our community that work in and have impacted local journalism and media today. So if you're one of those, please stand up so we can acknowledge you as well. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure everybody had their chance to put their tickets in the raffle container. So if you haven't done that, sprint over and do it now. We have a treat for you. A lot of what we've discussed today and a lot of what we're experiencing is a little stressful. So as a special treat, before you head off to your busy day, we welcome you to join us in a de-stressing meditation exercise led by Rebecca Hyson. So Rebecca, come on up. Rebecca is an Arizona licensed and nationally certified massage therapist and educator who with advanced training in Zen Shiatsu, biodynamic craniosacral therapy, Reiki, cupping, gua sha, and acoustic vibration. Her work is trauma-informed and nervous system centered, offering a mindful, integrative approach that supports physical, mental, and emotional well-being. So thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, everyone. Can you all hear me? No. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me now? I have to be close, huh? Better? Okay. This is going to be awkward, but good. I just want to thank the League for having me and for all of you for being open to doing this de-stress mindfulness meditation. I'm going to guide you through some breathing awareness and a body scan. So everyone take a breath. And one more. And then take a moment to ground yourself. You can put your feet on the ground. If that's comfortable for you, if there's another way you want to be, that is okay too. You can gently place your hands on your lap. They can be palms up or palms down. And then shoulders up, back, and down. And then you can gently close your eyes down if you're comfortable with that. And if you're not comfortable with closing your eyes, you can just soften your gaze and find something to focus on in front of you. I want you to take a moment to just check in with your breathing. I don't want you to change it or shift it. Just check in with your breath. Where are you feeling that in your body? And if you find your mind wandering, just bring your thought back to your breath. Inhale and exhale. You can begin to inhale calming energy on each inhale. And when you exhale, exhale tension and stress. Inhale, calm. Exhale, tension and stress. Now I want you to focus on your inhale and making your inhale to a count of 4. So your inhale will be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you exhale, exhale to a count of 6. So your exhale will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 4. 2, 3, 4. Exhale 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This 4-6 breathing is really great for your parasympathetic nervous system. So again, inhale to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you can bring your breath back to your normal pattern of breathing. Now I want you to take a moment to check in with your body. Maybe noticing where you're carrying some tension today. It may be your shoulders, could be your hands, your legs, and just noticing that. Not judging, just noticing. And we're going to start at the top of our head and we're going to scan down our bodies. So bring your attention and your breath to the top of your head, your forehead, your face, the sides of your head, the back of your head, the back of your neck, the front of your neck, your right shoulder, your right arm, your right hand and your right fingers. You might even wiggle them if that feels good. And then coming back to your left shoulder, left arm, left hand, left fingers, maybe wiggling them. Bringing your attention to your heart, your chest, your belly, your upper back, your lower back, your hips, the front of your legs, the back of your legs, your knees, your lower legs, the back of your lower legs, your ankles, the tops of your feet, the bottoms of your feet, and your toes. And maybe you even wiggle your toes. Now bring your attention to your entire body. And again, noticing where there may be tension, or you may be holding, and maybe bringing some movement to that area of your body. Perhaps wiggling your feet, your hips, your shoulders, your neck, your head. No judgment, just letting it go. And once again, bringing your attention back to your breath. Your own breath. Don't try to change it or shift it. And when you're ready, you can slowly begin moving your hands and feet, maybe opening your eyes, and kind of coming back into the room around you. And now you can go about your day, hopefully a little more relaxed and a little less stressed. And you can always come back to this too. These are things, these breathing, like the 6-4 breathing or the 4-6 breathing is something that you can do anytime in your day and coming back into your body. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
Okay. I want to thank our Issues and Eggs Committee for bringing us this valuable conversation while also supporting the League. I would once again like to thank all of our wonderful sponsors for your support today. I want to thank the elected officials who were here and all of the organizations and companies that provided information in our reception area. I want to thank Luis for his wonderful moderator role today. Thank you, Luis. And thank you to our panelists and our honorees. I hope that you all will continue the conversation, take action, and also join us again next year. And don't forget to support the League. If you are not a member, please join. And subscribe to your local newspapers. That's how we can support them. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful day.